All right, so moving on with the marketplace tutorial. As previously noted, I went ahead and set up everything, and I'm just going to walk you through what I've done. We had set up this page on an earlier tutorial, and I have gone in and assigned some values and assigned some actions to that add to cart button. Just for quick reference here, I did create a subcollection under user shopping carts. When a customer registers for an account, it creates this user shopping cart for them, and they will just have this one document in the user shopping carts collection assigned to them, and this will be updated depending on the actions that they take inside the app. And this market reference is important, and we'll look at why. And also down here in my functions, I do have add to cart total, which is the hold on just a second. Add cart, okay, yeah. So that's the grand total. Sorry, I had to refresh my memory as to exactly what I was looking at there. Does the grand total after tax and shipping have been calculated? And so the function is return the value of the subtotal plus the tax amount plus the shipping amount to give me the total amount that the customer would have to pay. And then I also have a calculate tax function, which it takes the cart total, multiplies that times the tax rate that's associated with that that market, which that would be assigned when the seller creates their marketplace based off of their location where they're selling from. It would assign that tax rate to their account, because tax rates are different depending on where you live. And then again, this function takes the entire cart total and I'm sorry, that takes the cart. It's written weird. I don't know why I wrote it like that, but it takes the cart subtotal. It's a better way to put that. And multiplies it times the tax rate to get the tax that's due on the item. So that should say cart subtotal. So it's a little confusing. I apologize for that. But anyway, so this would take place to get the tax amount that's due, and then this would represent that tax amount, that tax total, to get the total cost of the cart. And then of course, I think I set this one up already on a different tutorial, but this is when a customer adds an item to their cart, it takes the price of the item and multiplies it times the number of that item that they want to buy. So if they want to get 2, 3, 4 of that one item, it'll multiply that number of how many they want times the price of that item to get the total cost associated to that single item. So those are the three functions I have that are important to everything else we're going to be doing here. So looking at this bottom sheet, go ahead and start at the top here. My first backend query is the market items reference. So when a customer taps on an item in a market to view its details, its pictures, things like that, it grabs that reference tag that was passed to the bottom sheet. So that was something we set up in a previous tutorial. And then if we scroll down here, the row down here also has a query. And that query is actually referencing the authenticated user shopping cart. So the collection I chose was the sub-collection user shopping carts. And then the value source is the authenticated user. So that cart is associated to the user that's logged in. And that's all that's set for that. All right, so those are our queries. and then we've got our actions set up here, our add to cart button. So let me go ahead and open that up here. And it's a fairly large tree going on here. I mean, it's not too big, but it's got some different things happening. So let's go ahead and take a look at the very top. First of all, it wants to check if the user is logged in. If the user is not logged in, they either have an account and they're logged out, or they've never registered an account. Either way, the way I have my app set up, they have to be logged into an account to be able to add items to a cart, because the cart is associated with their account. And so if they are not logged in, it'll throw this alert box saying, please log in or register first. When they click OK, it'll dismiss the item detail bottom sheet, and then it'll show a bottom sheet, which is the register bottom sheet. And from there, they can register, or they can tap the login button and complete the steps there before proceeding. Now, assuming that they are logged in, we're going to go down here to this condition, which is a to condition variable with an or statement. So, trying to explain this best way I can to why I did this. The way I have the app set up, I did not set it up like, let's say, Amazon. So on Amazon, you search for an item, and then it gives you a bunch of different items from a bunch of different sellers. And you could add multiple different items from multiple different sellers to your shopping cart, and then place the order. You would just pay one total, and the money would be divided up automatically on Amazon's end and delegated to the individual sellers. That's not how I'm doing it here. In this particular app, I am requiring the user to only be able to shop with one marketplace at a time. So if a customer has, if a customer is viewing a marketplace and they've added items to their cart from that marketplace, they have to complete that transaction before they can add items from a different marketplace. And the main reason I did it that way is because my payment method that I'm using is going to be using Cashapp and deeplinking to Cashapp. In a real world scenario, you would probably use something like Stripe, something different, where this whole process would be kind of obsolete. But I wanted to show how to deep link into Cashapp, just for, I guess, for the interest side of things. And so that's why I'm doing it this way, because when you deep link into Cashapp to make a payment, you can only make a payment to one person at a time. So if we had multiple markets items in a cart, and we tried to pass the total value of the cart to Cashapp, then that total value would be sent to a single user. It wouldn't go to all the different sellers' marketplaces. So that's why I have it set up this way. So again, looking at this double condition up here, so this, I've got it set up to verify if the customer has items from a different marketplace in their cart currently. So the first one that I've got up here is going to be inside the user shopping carts document. When they add an item to their cart, it's going to update the field in there, the market reference field. And so when they add an item to their cart, in that field, it's going to put the market that is associated with that item into that reference field, so that we know what we know what market the customer is shopping with. And so what we're doing here, this condition, is saying, is the market reference in the user's shopping cart equal to the market parent of the item that they're attempting to add to their cart? So if the customer cart market reference field is set to the market that they are currently trying to add an item from, then they'll be allowed to add that item because they're adding items within one market still. So that's what that's looking for, is does the market name inside the customer cart match the market parent of the item they're attempting to add. So that's the first one. Or the or statement here is the market reference in the customer's cart empty or not set. In other words, have they never added anything to their cart before, or have they already completed a purchase where it removed that market name? And I'll show you that once we get to the final workflow of completing a purchase. What it does is it goes in and it actually deletes the market reference out of that. So as long as the cart market reference is equal to the item's parent reference, or the cart's market reference is empty, then it will add the item to the cart. It's not encountering any sort of errors. And so what would happen then if those two things are true, then it will update the customer's shopping cart. I did an update date, so every time something happens, it updates the date. And then items in cart, it'll add this item that they're currently selecting to that list in the cart. And then it will increment the subtotal of all the items in the cart, and it runs that function that I created, where it'll take the price of that item times the number of items that they want to purchase and gets that total value and increments the subtotal of the cart. And then the last field would be market reference. Obviously, we do want to set this from variable. And then we could grab that from the market items document. So the item that the customer is adding to their cart, we'd grab the parent reference, which would be the reference to that market. Okay. And then it dismisses that bottom sheet of the item that they're viewing, and then it'll show a snack bar that says item added to cart. Now, let's say that this market reference in the customer's cart does not equal the current market that they're viewing. Or in this particular instance, this second one is kind of irrelevant. This is really to trigger if it's empty, because it's going to look at this condition first in every instance. It's going to check for this one first. So if the market reference in the cart does not equal the current item that they're trying to add to the cart, then it's going to trigger that false flag first. So again, this second condition, as far as triggering a false, is somewhat irrelevant. It's more for the true side. And so if they are trying to add an item from a different market, then they're going to get this alert dialog that's going to say you have items in your cart from another market. You cannot have more than one market's items in your cart. And are you sure you want to remove what's already in your cart? So basically it's asking them, do you want to delete the items in your cart so that you can add items from this new market, or do you want to keep those items in your cart and complete that purchase first? Now, of course, if they say, no, I don't want to delete it, nothing happens. If they say, yes, I do want to delete it, then we're going to go over here and we're going to do an update action. And we're going to update this customer's shopping cart. And in the items in cart, we're gonna delete everything that's in there currently. And that's what we're going to do down the list here. We're going to delete the market reference that's in there. We're going to delete the cart total. We're going to delete the tax total, delete the subtotal, and delete the shipping total. So once that takes place, And then this alert dialog will pop up and say you can now add this market's items to your cart. And so they can proceed with adding the items and going forward with making a purchase with this particular marketplace. So that's the action flow where I've got this set up. Ideally, they would be able to make purchases from multiple markets with a single cart and not have to go through that process. But again, because I'm using Cashapp, one market would get a whole bunch of money and the other markets would get nothing and still have sold items, and that would just throw everything into disarray. So that's how I had to set this up to make that work. All right, so hopefully that made sense. If you ever want to set your cart system up to be somewhat complicated for no reason, there's how to do it. All right, so that's it for that page. Moving on down here, we are going to go into oh, and also, sorry, let me back up here. This should be set a certain way. I do want to check this before I move on. Yeah, I didn't scroll all the way down to show that part. This snack bar that pops up if they do successfully add an item to the cart, it's going to have an action associated with it, which will be a little text button to the right on that snack bar with a view cart action. So after they add the item to their cart, they could tap on the snack bar or specifically tap on that label there and pull up their cart immediately. So if they're ready to check out, they can do that. Okay, now we can move on. So now I want to go to, let's see here. Let's go to user cart. Okay. I didn't take a whole lot of time to design the theme to match the rest of the app because I'm trying to get this particular tutorial over with. But here's the user shopping cart. So let's go ahead and start up here at the top. And the scaffold has a backend query, and it is querying the user shopping cart subcollection. The parent reference is the authenticated user, so that it's their shopping cart, and that's all that's pulling there. Now we can get the associated data with what's in their shopping cart here. And then I did another backend query on this this container here. It encompasses. Ooh, I hope I didn't just move stuff around. Okay, that encompasses all that stuff, and that's a column, not a container. But in any case, it's a single query anyway. But I did a document from reference. Let me go back here. Okay. So I did a document from reference, which is set to markets, and the reference, I'm grabbing that from the customer's shopping cart. So again, when they add an item, it puts that market's reference into their shopping cart. And so I'm grabbing that market reference from the shopping cart so that I can use it in here because I'm going to need to be able to grab some information from it. Now going down here to our list view, which this is the items in their shopping cart. I generated children from a variable rather than a standard backend query because, again, when you do a standard backend query, you're querying an entire collection. With generating children from a variable, I want to get a list of information from within a collection, or I'm sorry, from within an entry in a collection. So your backend query is to query all the documents within a collection. This specific thing here is going to look at a data field within a specific document in a collection. That's what I want to get. So that's going to be cart items. And so this this variable here, I went, it's the customer's cart, and I want to get the items that are in their cart. So I select that list field. And so now I'm generating a list of the items that are in their cart. And of course, I have to do a document reference, as always, to be able to get the specific data for each individual item in that cart. And to do that, that's when you do a traditional backend query, but you do a document from reference query. Your collection is going to be market items. And then you go in here, it's your variable. And then this is the children query that I just did to generate the list view. And this is the items within that children variable. So I'm going to tap on that to get the specific item information about that item that's in the items in cart list. So now I can set this variable to the item's name, which I've covered all this in other tutorials. So you may want to look through some other tutorials to see if you're kind of confused as to what I'm doing here. And then even though it doesn't show anything, this is a picture, and I set that to the primary image of the item. So now this whole list will show. Look there. This whole list will show all the items that are in the user's cart currently, and they can click this little trash can here and they can remove that item from their cart, which to do so would go into here to user shopping carts document and select the items in cart. It's doing that again. I don't know why it does that. No idea. Anyway, it acts strange for some reason. But I would get the items in cart list field. I would set the list update type to remove from set, and then I would remove that item from the set. That way they can delete it from that list. All right, so that's that in a nutshell. It's pretty basic stuff right there. All right, so moving down the list here, now we're going to start looking at all these different things, calculate shipping buttons, stuff like that. Okay, so let's start here. This is the subtotal, and it's set to a variable, and this one's pretty simple. Just go in here to the user's shopping carts document, you scroll down here, find subtotal, and then you know, number format and everything like that is set to a $sign. And so now it's grabbing that subtotal. That one's pretty easy. All right, now tax is going to be my custom function to generate the tax total. So it's going to take the cart total, which again, that should say subtotal, kind of confusing. But the variable set for that is the subtotal in the cart multiplied times the state tax rate for that market, which is in the markets document. So go in here, and that's why I did that backend query to get information about the specific market, because I needed to grab down through here their state tax rate, which would be assigned to them when they create their market account. And so it takes their state tax rate, multiplies it times the subtotal of the cart, and that gives us our tax amount. So if it's like 7% tax rate, it'll multiply that times the subtotal and give us the cost in tax. All right, so that's pretty simple. All right, and so now what we need to do, we need to calculate the shipping for this customer. Now, as previously noted, when we were going over doing shipping and calling that API, I went very simple on this. And I really wanted to show these different methods as far as clicking these things. But in reality, if a customer had an account and filled out their account, put in their address, had it saved on file, or if they've already placed an order previously, then this shipping cost would automatically reflect against their address that's on file. They wouldn't have to tap the calculate shipping button every time. Now, if they wanted to ship to a different address, then that would add in some different variables. But again, for the sake of this tutorial, we're going to force them to have to calculate the shipping. So, very first thing, this thing over here is set to a conditional visibility. So the total for the shipping cost will, this text field here, will be visible if the shipping total is set. So they've run their API call, it's returned a value, it is set, it will show up. Conversely, the button over here, its conditional visibility is shipping total is not set. So if this has not been filled, then this will be visible. Okay, so got those two things in place there. So let's assume that that hasn't been calculated yet. It will tap on their calculate shipping button here. Okay, so 4 conditions have to be met before the API call will run. And those conditions are, let's see here, the authenticated user's street address is set and not empty. Their city is set and not empty. Their state is set and not empty, and their zip code is set and not empty. Those 4 things have to be filled out in order for that API call to run, because that API call has to know what their shipping address is in order to calculate the rate. If the customer has not set these things or hasn't set all of them in their account, then they will be prompted with this alert dialog that will say, please add your shipping address. And well, I guess I didn't finish this out. But what I intend for this to do is it'll dismiss this bottom sheet, and then it'll have another action that probably will just be another bottom sheet or something similar that'll pop up, giving the customer access to their account to update their shipping information. But I guess I didn't finish that on that side, but that's how that would work. All right, so let's say these 4 conditions are met. They do have their shipping address filled out. We will then initiate the API call to get the shipping rate. Got all these variables in here. And this is all from that API call that we created. So this street address, these first ones up here are for the customer. So it's going to grab from the customer their street address, their city, their state, and their postal or zip code. And then I set again, because I don't have, this is not set. Actually, it's actually set in the API call itself. So I actually don't need that in there. Okay. All right. Okay, so that's the customer's information. Yeah, I don't know why I put all this stuff in here, because a lot of that stuff is set statically within the API call itself. So I could remove some of that. Guess I didn't go through here and finish filling all this out. So company name, or it deleted it for some reason. That's kind of weird. All right, but anyway, so the company name is the marketplace name, marketplace documents. I don't even know if I have a phone field. No, I don't. You have to have a phone, but we're not running this in test mode right now, so that's irrelevant. But anyway, I think you understand. You just go through here and fill this stuff out as it associates, and that's already in there. I don't know why it's not showing up. City, company, state, company postal code, company country code, and delete that because it's pulling from the API. And then the marketplace owner's name is the marketplace. All right, so we've assigned all the variables for that API call. So now it's essentially just getting the address of the customer and the address of the marketplace so I can get the shipping rate. And then, and of course, also should note that the action output variable name is this, that's automatically filled when you create your API call. I didn't change it to anything else, so that's what we'll be referencing here in a moment. And now we have this condition set. If the API call succeeded, we would go over here. If it doesn't succeed, I set some heavy haptic feedback that would pop up a dialog box and say, cannot get shipping rates. It seems we're having some issues calculating shipping. Please try again. So if the API call fails, it'll prompt them to try it again. But if it succeeds, then we'll do a backend call over here. And we will reference the customer's shopping cart, and we'll go into the shipping total field. And so here's something that's kind of important here. So let me jump back over to the API real quick. Go. All right, so my path. Get that. I'll do the test real quick. My preview. Okay, so I'm getting all these different return values here. Now, there's a couple of things I could do. Come on. So I could do a custom path with my API whenever I do that call for my JSON path, or I could do the way that I have it set up, and it's kind of an interesting method that I wanted to explore. And so this all of these fields are returned as a list, right? So it's like item and Flutterflow or Flutter and Dart and everything like that. Or Flutter, I should say. When you do lists, the index always starts at 0 unless defined otherwise, but it's going to start at 0. It doesn't start at 1. So your first item in the list will be 0. Second item would be 1. Third item would be 2, so on and so forth. And so what I did for my API call to get the value that I wanted is I actually go back. Back in here, shipping total. I'm going to set it from a variable. And first of all, I am going to grab it from my action output here, which is the API call result. And I'm going to do, as the options, I want the JSON body, the JSON path, and come on, here I could do custom, but I'm gonna grab that path that I set up when I created the API call, that path that I signed over there, which is the rates amount. And then I want to get an item from that path because it is returning a list of items. And so I'm going to grab the item at index, and I'm going to define a specific index, and the value is going to be 1. All right, so come on, let's go back in here. And that that item at index number 1 will just give me the dollar amount, the $10.07. That's what we'll plug in here, because again, this particular data field is a double, so it's looking for a number with a decimal point. So it's only going to grab that $10.07 and plug it in there as my shipping rate. So that's good to go. So now we've got our shipping rate, which would then again make this hidden and make our text field here visible. I make this invisible. Okay. And then our field here is showing our shipping total. I think I already looked at that. All right. So now we're getting our subtotal, our tax rate, and our shipping total. Got everything that we need here. So for our full total, our complete total, this is going to be that custom function that's going to add the cart total, which will take the subtotal here. I'll take the tax total from here, and I'll take the shipping total from here. And again, this is set as list item at index. I had to put all that in again. And it's going to add all 3 of those together, and it's going to spit out my grand total here and display it right here. All right. Okay, so we've got all the totals that we need for the shopping cart. Now let's say that our customer's ready to complete their purchase. So we're going to go up here, and I went ahead and I did an update action here. So I'm going to go ahead and get that cart total into the customer cart here, into their shopping cart. So for that, a cart total, I did that custom function again where I add those 3 numbers together: tax, subtotal, shipping, and that plugs that into the cart total, the full amount that's due. And then from there, it's going to open a bottom sheet, which is my send payment bottom sheet, which is where we're going to initiate the deep link into Cashapp. And so we passing some parameters over there. We're going to pass the markets document. I'm just going to go ahead and pass them. I could call them on the other side, but it's just easier to just go ahead and pass them. It's a little bit more fluid that way. And I also went ahead and passed the cart reference. Again, I could call it up on the other side as a query, but it's just a little bit more fluid to do it as a passing reference. And then I made that non-dismissible, because if they've gotten to this point where they've submitted their order, even though nothing else has happened, technically an order hasn't necessarily been created yet. I don't want them to just accidentally or purposely dismiss that thing. I want them to go ahead and go through with sending the money through Cashapp. All right, so that's all taken care of there. So then I'm going to pop up this little box here, which is to send the money. So my backend query on the container is getting that market from that parameter that we passed over. And then in this column here, the backend query is getting the user shopping cart from the cart reference that we passed. And then up here, we've got a text combination. It says, please send payment to, and then this is the marketplace's name. And then this is the cart total from the authenticated user's sub-collection shopping cart. All right, so we've got all that in there now, and so now they need to go ahead and send the payment, using the Cashapp deep link action. So the first thing I want to do here is I actually want to create a document, and this is going to be an order, a market order. This will be what would be sent to the owner of that market, letting them know they've received an order. And I didn't add a whole lot of fields in here for this. There would actually be quite a bit more if I was really actually doing this. But I just did a date order placed, the total value, which is the cart total from the user shopping cart. The items reference, the items that they purchased, it is a set value. And then I grabbed that from the user shopping cart collection. So I just went in here and I tapped on this list field. So that way it'll add those items into this order document that's about to be created. Order fulfilled is set to false, and then customer account reference is set to the parent reference of the shopping cart document. All right, so that'd be the order that the seller receives. And then from there, so it's important how these things are, how they're lined up here. So because actions are conducted in the order in which they are stacked within your action flow, what's going to happen down here in action 3 is the authenticated user shopping cart document is going to be erased. So all of the information in that document is going to be deleted. Items of cart deleted, cart total deleted. That way it's all set back to 0. So if they go and start adding, they go to another market to add items to their cart, it's fresh and ready to go. Everything's been deleted from this order. But you want to put this down here as the third action. If you put it as the first action, this action that creates the market order wouldn't know where to pull this information from. For instance, like the items reference that's getting this data from the customer shopping cart. If you've already deleted that data in the first action, then it wouldn't know where to pull it from and you would get an error. So you want to make sure that this takes place before this takes place. And the reason launch URL is in the middle, which it actually yeah, okay, sorry. Yeah, it does need to be there. So this launch URL, it's going to pass some information through a deep link, including the total amount that needs to be sent to the user or to the seller. And it's getting that total amount, just like this is getting the total order value. It's getting that from the shopping cart. This is getting that total order amount from the shopping cart as well, so it needs to be put here in the middle. Now this will launch a URL, and it will deep link, and this is also assuming that the customer has Cashapp installed on the device that they're on. It'll deep link them into Cashapp. If they don't have that installed on their device, then they'd have to. It would take them to their respective app store, and they'd have to install it. But even though it's going to deep link them out of the marketplace app and into Cashapp, the last time I tested this, and I actually have an app that's it's private, but it's actually in actual test mode, like in the app stores. And I have a similar process set up for this, but it's not a marketplace app. But the last time I was working on it, even though I deep linked out of my app, this action still proceeded. So unless something's been changed, even though you're technically leaving the app, swapping out to a different one, this action should still proceed. If it doesn't still proceed, if something's been changed to where it won't finish out that action, then we could use app state and do what we needed to do from app state. But I really didn't want to get into app state within this tutorial. That'll be a whole separate tutorial of explaining all of that. But a lot of what we've done through this marketplace tutorial and kind of having to, what's the best way to put it? I don't, doing things that maybe you look at and be like, is there an easier way to do this? Yes, I mean there is. You could use app state and you could pass things around like that, which would make more sense. But I didn't want to dive into app state in the process of also making this app tutorial, because they need to be addressed separately. So again, this process has worked for me in the past. Whether it still works or not, I don't really know. It's been a while since I've tested it, but it did work. But anyway, so that's what happens. Deletes all that. So as far as launching the URL, to be able to deep link into Cashapp. So to do that, we would do a combined text, and we'd go ahead and put the deep link URL for Cashapp, which is cashme://cash.me/, and I'd go ahead and put the $sign in there for their Cashapp ID. And then I grab the Cashapp ID from the marketplace document, because when the seller creates their market, they put in their Cashapp ID there. And so I'll plug it in here. And then we do another / and then in text field number 4, and we grab the cart total from the shopping cart, and we plug it in here. Now we don't use the currency symbol. Don't want to use that, but you do want to set it as a decimal, and that way you get your dollars and your cents or whatever currency you'd be using. But for me, it's obviously USD, and then that'll plug the amount there. And so when you run that action, again, what will happen is it'll take you out of this app and take you, assuming you have Cashapp installed or the customer does, it'll take you directly into Cashapp to that seller's profile based off of their cash ID. It'll bring up that seller's profile, and it'll bring up the amount that's owed to them that was passed through that action. And at that point, it'll just say, send payment or send money, whatever it says on Cashapp. And then the customer can tap send, and off it goes. Unfortunately, there's no way. I wish there was, but to my knowledge, there's not. There's no way to actually, after they send the payment on Cashapp, to do a callback to bring you back into your app. If Cashapp had a web interface, not just an app, actually had HTTP interface and APIs and things like that, you could do those callbacks that would drop you back into the original app. But they don't have that. I wish they'd do that. Maybe one day. It'd be fantastic, because you could do a lot more with incorporating Cashapp into a payment flow. But at its very basis, this works really well, and it's a pretty neat process for how it just kind of takes you right over into Cashapp and has the person you need to send to and the total you need to send to them just all right there, and you just tap send. So anyway, that's it for this tutorial. We just kind of went through setting up the process of a customer making a purchase, how all that works. Just a couple other things I want to touch on this marketplace tutorial. And then we're probably going to close this one up and move on to some other stuff. So hopefully that was maybe helpful for some of you looking for some ways of how to do things. And again, there are other ways to achieve the same end result, and I will show you. I kind of want to show you all the various ways to reach your goal, and then you decide which one works best for you, because some methods are a little bit more complicated than others. So some people may want the easier, more direct route. But I will say, the more complicated you get with things, the more control you have over what you're wanting to achieve. So just really up to you as to how deep with it you want to go. All right, that's it for this tutorial. Thanks again for your patience with me over these past few days. And I will be back with you at some point soon. All right, take care.